are present. And so on to the action items. The first item is the approval of minutes from the Election Commission meetings on September 30th and October 22nd of last year.
I'll move for the approval of the minutes of the September 30 and October 22nd, 2020 meetings of the Election Commission.
Second that.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Okay, they are approved. The second item is the item that brings us together today, and that is the adoption of a resolution approving the temporary consolidation of precincts for the May 4th, 2021 election. This election, the only thing on it for City of Kalamazoo voters is a millage question from KRESA. Is that correct, Shelby?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And the consolidation that we are proposing is our standard consolidations that we do for elections where there aren't state or federal candidates on the ballot. 8 locations where we have 2 precincts in those locations, each of those locations. So we combine them. It doesn't really impact the voters at all. They go to the same places. They just get in one line instead of 2. So that is what is being proposed for the May election. Is there a motion to adopt that resolution?
I'll move to adopt the resolution approving the temporary consolidation of the precincts for the May 4th, 2021 election.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Commissioner Powers with the motion, Commissioner Robinson with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was everyone, so there's no one opposed. The resolution's adopted. And finally, some housekeeping business we need to do since this is our first meeting that we're having this year. We need to adopt the meeting schedule for our meetings for the rest of the year. And right now we have the May election that is that we know is happening, and we know, of course, there will be the November municipal election. So the meetings are organized around those 2 events. And of course, once the schedule is approved, Shelby will send out the announcements for for each of those meetings, so we can get those on our calendars. But this is the action we need to take to comply with the Open Meetings Act. Is there a motion
for the approval of the proposed 2021 regular meeting schedule for the Election Commission?
Second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that was everyone. There's none opposed. And in terms of the meetings, we'll see what happens in terms of if we're still gonna be able to do virtual meetings. The current status of OMA is that we're allowed to do these virtual meetings without any other sort of emergency declaration through March. Is that correct, Clyde?
Through March 30th. So the March 31st meeting might be kind of interesting.
Okay. After that, I think the law says we still could do it, but when I say we, I mean the city in general, but there'd have to be either a state or local emergency declaration, right? And so, yeah.
And a lot of this is going to hinge on whether the legislature acts, and also because we have a, if you will, rule that's been issued by the Department of Health and Human Services regarding social gathering and mask wearing. That expires, I think, on the 22nd of this month. I would expect, if vaccinations continue to trend and the number of cases continue to trend as they are now toward reduction, there may be some opening up of that a little bit. But that we'll have to wait and see what happens of that. I would also guess, since this tends to go on a month-to-month basis, we may have to wait until late March before we know exactly. There may be another rule in place by March 22nd or 24th. So
Right.
just kind of wait and see, just from what the state does, both in terms of the executive and the legislative branches.
Right. And am I correct that the mask order probably doesn't qualify under OMA as that emergency? The mask order itself from the Department of Health doesn't, or is that going to be a question?
That's going to be a question, and we'll take a look at that going forward.
Okay.
Nobody's at this point. I think the Michigan Municipal League's trying to get the legislature to kind of resolve the issue by pushing no reason virtual meetings until maybe midsummer,
Right.
either June 30th or July 31st. But we'll have to wait and see what happens on that. At this point, they're kind of fiddling while Rome burns, or they're just waiting till there is a deadline, until there's a need to act.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the schedule was set up for in-person meetings, but we'll do the electronic meeting notices as we're able and need to. So, okay. I don't really have any discussion items at this point. It's, we did a risk limiting audit for the November election back in the second week of January, and the results from that, the Secretary of State reported on that. There weren't any anomalies. So Kalamazoo County, our clerks did really well in that process. Shelby did a great job of organizing all of that, since we had a new county clerk who hadn't done that type of an audit before. So so that went well. But yeah, other than that,
just despite the assertions made by Senator Shirkey.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. It's some of that election administration minutia that if a person gets an absentee ballot, completes it, and returns it, but then they pass away between when they do that, they return their ballot, and election day, their vote doesn't count under Michigan law. And so we get notification of that, which we do. The county clerk sends us the list of death certificates issued on a monthly basis. My staff goes through the obituaries in the Gazette when those papers are published, to make sure that we are keeping up with cancellations because of deaths. So is it we do catch those, and in fact, I mean, it's interesting. Last fall, there were articles. I remember reading articles online about people who were upset because of that, because their loved one had really wanted to participate in the election, and they were upset that their vote was being taken away because their ballot was canceled. And it's like, that's how Michigan law is written, right? You have to be alive on election day in order for that vote to count, even if you've submitted it well in advance. So, yeah.
Well, if I show up with the Thriller music behind me, you'll know that I probably shouldn't be voting. Walking with a limp. And
You just got to dance that good, Clyde. That's all.
right.
All right. Andy, do we have any comments out there?
No, there are no public comments at this time.
Okay. All right, we can just make a note for the record that that we did solicit those comments. And so if there's other comments, other by the members here, then we can adjourn.
Very good.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Until March 31st then.
Yes.
Yes. We'll see you
All
then.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Bye.